This is Do It for a Living, your source for inside information on the future of automotive performance.
I think a lot of us have this fear of failure. It's like, am I going to make it? Am I going to succeed? Is my business going to fail? For me, one of the things that helped a lot was realizing that I already made it. I feel really fulfilled and again, super grateful for that.
What's holding you back from starting or growing your business into what it can be? Well, if you're listening to this, it's not a lack of information. What you're about to hear is all you need to get motivated and start making waves. Do It for a Living podcast details the journey of today's true players in their own words. Find out how they broke out so you can too. The time is now. The time is always now.
Welcome back to another episode of Do It for a Living. I'm Kevin Dubois with My Shop Assist. I've got Dave Carapetyan with me of Rally Ready Driving School. So Dave and I have known each other for actually quite a while now. He's obviously one of the Pikes Peak people, so most people know him as Texas Dave. He's driven an Evo for I don't know how long. Longer than I think I've been in the Evo scene, probably.
Too long.
But he's put together a really, really cool school here in Texas, Austin area, called Rally Ready Driving School, and he's going to tell us all about that, and of course, getting to the point where he is today of being a rally driving instructor and the school he's built around it. So, Dave, how are you doing today?
Good, man. Doing well. Good to catch up with you. It's been, I think we're closing in on almost a decade of knowing each other now. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's. I mean, and what's funny is this is weird. As we were just talking about this before we got started here, is I worked with you for a little while in one of the years you were building your car. You brought it up here, and we did some work for you, and we kind of had a falling out at the time. But it's just one of those things with tight deadlines and lots of work to do, and then people get mad and angry and. And ever since then, we've been fine. And, we worked with each other a couple times here and there. But, water under the bridge now, right?
I'm always best friends with the people who yell at me the loudest, because those are the ones who I'm like, oh, yeah, I probably could stand to, make some self-improvement. So, yeah, for sure. No, it's, I mean, that's one of the things that I think is just so wild about this industry is there's attitudes and egos, and there's so much going on, and something always falls apart in relationships in this industry, and I think it's not about when it falls apart, it's about how you put it back together, and both the relationships, the cars, everything, and which is probably pretty applicable to the rest of this, which is talking about how to keep your head up when you're running a business.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So that's exactly how it is. Is it just and I know for sure my problem was always ego. I had big ego, and I've since then dialed it way back, mostly because I catch myself having a big ego on Facebook and then having to spend an entire day defending some retarded discussion. And then you're like, where did the time go?
Yeah.
So, but anyway.
Yeah, same. Yeah, and that's the nature of the beast, right?
So let's go ahead and get started here. Why don't you go ahead and start by telling us, how did you get started in cars and rally, and kind of bring us up to the point of where you got going with Rally Ready?
Oh man, this is going to be a long one. So I grew up here in Austin, Texas, and I was one of those, the last few kids who grew up in a neighborhood where I rode my bike to school and rode my bike home, and then my mom would kick me out the door and say, come back, before dark, or after dark, for that matter. And so, I was running a radio flyer wagon full of waterlogged golf balls, selling them back to golfers at the golf course when I was in 4th grade. Started playing in a bunch of punk rock and hardcore bands in middle school and early high school, and ended up, we played 5 shows a week in Austin with a bunch of, clubs here in town. And the booking agent at one of those clubs was just loved us because we sounded exactly like one of his old favorite hardcore bands called Negative Approach. And so he would book us on every cool show that came through, so we got to play with Fugazi and there was a Black Flag, Misfits, Ramones tribute band, all this stuff when I was 14, and so as some of those bands kind of fizzled out, we did a tour in 2002, and the first band I was in, we were producing our own records basically from all the money we'd earn at these shows. We'd press 7-inch records with a little label up in Pennsylvania, and we toured the East Coast and did a bunch of awesome stuff, had some labels, some big labels that were really excited about us, and all the other kids in the band were like, no, man, that's selling out. And I was like, I'm pretty sure that's called getting paid to play music when you're 14. So, but some of those bands broke up some of the guys that I started hanging out with after that were a little bit older, and were playing in some other bands with them, and they were probably in their early 20s at the time. I must have been 14, 15, and they were super into like street racing Hondas, and so I kind of sort of started getting into cars, hanging out around them. Long story short, turns out that the reason there were so many car parts around all the time is because they were also car thieves. So luckily I avoided that path, but I sort of got into cars, hanging out with a bunch of punk rock playing car thieves. So, they were into street racing and drag racing, and I was sitting at their house one day playing Gran Turismo 3 all night, and because I didn't have any video games growing up, so anytime somebody had, a video game system, I would just like totally zone out. And I was playing the rally part on Gran Turismo 3, and I was like, holy shit, I don't know what this is, but this is the coolest thing ever. This is like the best of skateboarding and BMX biking and all the stuff I grew up doing. I'm going to just gloss over the rollerblading phase. And I was like, man, rally cars, this is like, I don't know what this is, but it's the coolest thing ever. So while all the rest of my buddies were, partying and drinking and getting in trouble, I was like printing out the SCCA Pro Rally rulebook when I was 15 and 16. And I remember a night my mom was out of town and had some friends over who were just like getting obliterated, and I didn't and still don't drink, but luckily I found out about rallying right about the same time that I was like, all right, so 6-pack or lug nuts. So they were getting obliterated, and I was literally printing and reading and memorizing the rule book when I was 16. So I ended up spending my college money on buying my first rally car, which was a 98 Integra Type R. That just had the absolute living shit beat out of it already when I got it. It was a like prepped rally car-ish. And got it for a smoking deal. And my dad was like, all right, that's your college money. That's your deal. I don't have any more money for you. You're on your own. And he was thinking like, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to like, he'll really have to learn the value of hard work now. He's going to have to go out and get a job and make a living. And instead, I just found a team who was like, what? You have a Type R rally car? We totally want to go rallying. So they foot the bill for my first two events in 2004, and that was kind of how I got started. And after those two events, they were like, wait a minute, this is just a black hole to pour money into. So I went back to my dad, who he didn't care about cars or any of this stuff. He just he believed in me, and he saw what we'd been able to do when we had our silly band. So yeah, he came in and helped out, and we started racing together for a little bit, but quickly both realized that all the other fathers and sons and teams and drivers there had money, and we didn't have that. So so we
the never-ending problem of racing, right?
Yeah, totally. There's two kinds of people in this industry: those who are writing the checks, and those of us who are receiving them and getting paid about $6 an hour for them when it all comes out in the wash, I think. But yeah, so I just kind of realized early on like what was going to be what my direction was going to be was really dictated by figuring out what side of the industry I wanted to be on. And I'm not one for wrenching on cars. You and I know that very well. Mm-hmm. And I've always had more passion for the people and the the mentoring and coaching side. So yeah, my third race ever was Pikes Peak in 2005. We ended up running that race consecutively for 11 years, and in the process we got 3 open class championships, 2008, 9, and 10. And in the middle of that, I started mentoring with Big Brothers Big Sisters. Yeah, I remember that, because you're one of your big brother or your little brothers was helping out with the car at the time, right? He came up to the that's right, race and was there. I remember that. Uh-huh. So that was he was 14, and we still see each other. He's an awesome kid. He's 23 now. Oh my gosh, almost 24. He never left Austin, and we took him to Colorado to Pikes Peak for his first time ever leaving Austin. And he's not corrupted now, right? He's a mature adult. He's totally corrupted. No, he's completely corrupted. We ruined him. But no, he's a good kid, and I guess you can't say kid because he's older now than I was when you and I met. So right. He and I have been close for a long time, and in doing started kind of spending more time mentoring and hanging out in that arena. I started getting a better handle on what playing to our strengths and what we like to do here and what we're all about. And so we kind of saw that there was a hole in the market, and Austin's a pretty ripe spot for it. And really, there's no rallying in the bottom half of the country. So. Oh yeah, I don't have hardly any customers. I've had maybe you and one other person doing actual rally cars, and nobody else does. It's kind of crazy. So. Yeah, like when I called you and said, "Hey, can you put stock cams in this and then pull like several pounds of boost out?" Right, exactly. Bring it in on a trailer. Leave it alone. Okay, you sure you want to go slower? Totally. Yeah, it's too fast. It's too fast. So, what do you do for a job? I mean, have you just been racing the whole time? No. So, I started, because I started rallying in 2004. 2007, I decided to start Rally Ready as a brick and mortar store. So I tried selling safety equipment and race car parts and all of the things that I thought would be like, yeah, this will be super fun. Turns out, one, running a store is miserable for me. It's not my personality type. Like, doesn't work well for me. I'm not good at it. I'm not organized enough, like that kind of organized enough for that. And also turns out that starting that in October of 2007, buying a bunch of like really fancy Italian, race suits and things was, that wasn't a good idea. So that didn't last long because the economy tanked right around that time. And so, yeah, so I tried that for a while. I mean, I've worked odd jobs forever. I was a courier for several years, which was super fun. Picking up freight from a loading dock every morning, figuring out how much of it I could shove in the back of an EP3 Civic and then ripping around town, dropping stuff off. That's probably where I really, really learned left foot braking. And then, I've done a bunch of just odd jobs for anything and everything. I'll occasionally work on a car if I absolutely have to, and if the stakes are low enough. But we started working on the school in 2010.
Okay.
And it was kind of like being a chef and writing a cookbook, but not having a kitchen. It's like there was no like little rally track we could go test any of this stuff on. So we just had to basically work backwards. And one of our clients that we met in same time I met you in 10, who rented a Subaru from me for Pikes Peak. He was like, hey, I just want, he had been an ex-factory Subaru driver, and we ran into each other at a track, and I happened to have a Rally Ready shirt, and he was like, oh, there's rallying in Texas? And I was like, well, me. And he's like, oh, man, do you know where I can rent a Subaru for Pikes Peak? And I was like, oh, totally. So I rented him a car. At first I felt like I'd overpromised and I was going to underdeliver, and ended up the opposite. We just spent all of our money making that car as fast as could be. And he's like, hey, I asked for a car that would finish. You gave me a car that could have won. I lost by 1 second because, I didn't realize that it was so close. And so he said, I do a sales training program in Austin. It's called Sandler Training, and I want you to come take it and learn all about how to be a better salesperson, because you should have charged me like 3 times as much. So so I went and took that program with him and rented the car the next year for exactly 3 times as much to someone else. And then took a lot of what I learned with him, and which is really just a really smart and simple sort of psychology approach to sales. And we applied the same thing towards our curriculum, which is really understanding what someone's primary sensory dominance is, how they process information, basically like try and look at each exercise through the lens of the individual. And it's just as much as like understanding if they're an only child or that kind of stuff. Like these things are fundamental to how we process our environment. We developed our curriculum sort of around a lot of that stuff. But again, it's like, we wrote all this stuff down. And we're like, yeah, cool. This is gonna be awesome. And someday we'll get to try it out. It took us 2 years between starting on that and actually teaching our first class in 2012. And then in late 2012, I had the trailer incident. I was my co-driver and business partner and I, we were sitting in a little Mexican restaurant near our old shop, and he was sitting across from me, and he was adopting his daughter from, at the time, it was supposed to be Ghana. And so he's telling me all about the process of what it was like. He had 3 kids of his own already, and we were just hanging out way past being done eating our burgers at this little Mexican restaurant. And all of a sudden he's looking over my shoulder, and he turns, this is like a quarter second that all this happened, and he turns like pale, his pupils dilate, and in the reflection next to him in this refrigerator like door, I see the reflection of looked like a freight train coming at us at 500 miles an hour. And the loudest noise I ever heard, it was like an explosion. And when the dust settled, I was on the ground with a broken leg and looked up, and there was a cattle trailer that just casually popped off the back of someone's truck, and they didn't have safety chains, and smashed through the wall of the building and broke my leg. So
it wasn't your trailer, it was someone else's trailer?
No, man, I didn't have a ranch back then, boy.
Right.
So
you never know. You have some really strange stuff. So
tell me about it. No, this guy. And the best part about this, Rob and I ended up being fine. Rob had some kind of tendon damage in his knee that was preventing him from ever being a marathon runner, but I think he's pretty well moved past those aspirations. And broke my fibula, but it was just a really clean break. And what it did is reminded me that oh yeah, you don't really get to sit around and wait for stuff, because at any moment you might choose to eat a hamburger at a Mexican restaurant, which clearly we paid for that karmically. And then, a cattle trailer just pops the curb, smashes through the wall, and kills you. So fortunately, there was just enough insurance money there that I could actually finish my Pikes Peak car in 2013.
All right.
So that was when we put the big wings on and went and worked with Marco up at Magnus and Robert at FP and
screw the leg. Let's build the car, right?
yeah, exactly. The leg will be fine as long as they can push a clutch and a brake pedal. We're fine. So, so anyway, so after that, that was really a big motivation to like buckle down and one of the big things, as you well know, was my goal was just to get under 10 minutes at Pikes Peak, and we built the car for it that year. Unfortunately, didn't. We had some issues and didn't pull it off. We had mechanicals.
It ended really early, right? That run was pretty early, I think, if I remember correctly. Turbo problems
finished,
or something like that.
But
okay.
That was 14.
Okay.
No, it was somebody didn't tighten an oil feed, and our FP turbo survived for like a whole week basically with no oil. But in 13 we finished, but the bolts just started backing out. And so the studs, I should say, were backing out of the manifold, and so we just did most of the hill climb with
no boost, right?
1/2-inch gap between the turbo and the manifold.
Yep. And then you welded it the next time, and then everyone got mad at you because you welded it. But you're like, it fucking fell apart last time, right?
Which I thought was absurd too. That wasn't my call. I got in trouble for everything from everyone that year. If I wasn't working on the car, I was getting yelled at. If I was working on the car, I was getting yelled at. It was like I give up. That was just the end for me. I was like, this isn't fun. Why do I just like. And I went back in 15, and then I was like, I'm done, man. In 2016, I slept into like 10:30 on race day, and I went to the computer in my underwear, and I was watching the Pikes Peak live feed, and I was like, man, I just want to give them all a hug and tell them like, there's another way. So I just, you don't have to do this. It's like watching a bunch of addicts using, and instead I just sat in my underwear and checked my bank account, and I was like, this is dope. Yeah, when X Games came to Austin, I should say, in 14, we knew that was kind of our big opportunity to sort of like relaunch the school. So we started working really hard on finding a new location and stuff in 14. And I've been teaching full-time, teaching rallying ever since. It's been my only job for 4 years and 3 months. So
the school is based out of Harris Hill Road, right? Didn't you build a track there? Is that where it's at still?
Oh no, so we were at Harris. That's like this is going way back. So we started working on a rally course at Harris Hill. Actually, man, that was 09. Actually, whoa.
Okay. I remember when you were building.
Things never really materialized there.
Okay.
Yeah. So you and I first met when I was kind of first talking about that, and then because I called you with some tech stuff at Pikes Peak in 09. I was like, what's that guy from the forums who like does Evo stuff? We started working on a track there in 09. We tried again in 2010, and things just never really materialized there. It didn't really line up. So we ended up renting our first classes in 2012. We bought 3 Honda Civics on Craigslist, and we painted them to Ford Grabber blue so that they'd look cool. Didn't work. They're still not cool. And we rented the overflow parking lot at a circle track. So we just had like a 1-acre gravel parking lot.
Okay.
That worked. So we ended up moving to our friend Brianne Korn's place. She had, or still has, I should say. She's really responsible for like kickstarting, rallying in the region. And she had a little track that she had been working on a friend's property that she still races at, and affectionately called Brianne Korn Raceway. So we moved out there in 14 for a year. Okay. And then one of our clients that we met at X Games, he was like, man, this is the coolest thing ever. We got to do this for real. We got to get a real place. So he bought us 137-acre property. We're about 15 minutes from Circuit of the Americas. Okay. So we're in a little town called Dale. If you go on TripAdvisor, we are number 1 of 1 things to do in Dale. So I'm just saying, it's a pretty big deal.
Is the Schumacher Ranch out there somewhere too? Didn't he buy a big giant chunk of land somewhere in Austin? I thought it was really close to the Circuit of the Americas too, but
I have no idea. Let's Google it. I have never heard of that.
Yeah, I know he bought something out there. I don't know where Dale is, but I thought it was near Circuit of the Americas, and I can't imagine there's too many places 15 miles from Circuit of the Americas where you can buy that much acreage, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I mean, there's really nowhere. There's nowhere within 45 minutes of Austin that you can like buy a chunk of land really anymore. Certainly not that's in any way reasonable. Right. Schumacher Ranch. Yeah, what is this? Schumacher buys 200-hectare ranch in Texas. Huh. Interesting.
That was before he had his accident.
Crazy.
So now it's probably his family's whatever. I guess he's still alive, I guess, but I don't know how that works. His wife is in charge of it, probably.
Yeah, so sad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, continuing on. So I mean, you've gone through a lot, and you've obviously had to move around a couple times. Have you ever really doubted yourself and wondered if this isn't going to work? What are you going to do?
Oh, I mean, what time is it? Yeah, twice today, probably. I mean, I think anyone who doesn't doubt themselves is leading with their ego, like we were talking about earlier. And I think the thing I think just doesn't get addressed in this industry is like the nature of the performance automotive industry or motorsport or whatever is that like there are egos. You're not going to go compete in a car, whether you're drag racing or rallying or, circuit racing or whatever it is. Like, you're not going to get in a car and go race against other people if you don't have, if you're not at least partially motivated by ego. And it's fine. Let's just be real about it, and then figure out how we can manage it and not let it, dictate all of our decisions. And so, I think a lot of people, and honestly, some who are really successful just never check it. They just never check in on, where am I? What am I doing? And is there something, am I doing right by not just the people working with me or my clients, but by, everyone in my life? And is this the right thing to do? And, man, it's tough. This isn't a, I think I could make more money if I was a sandwich artist at Subway. This isn't a,
But you're living what you love, so.
Totally. And that's the trade-off. So it's like, on the one hand, I have no money ever, it feels like, but I'm also doing all the stuff that I want to do. And like we had Daniel Ricciardo out here last year, and he showed up with some friends, and he was like, I don't know what to do, man. I've never driven a car with a roof on it before. So, we put him in another EP3 Civic, funny enough. And I taught him how to drive a rally car in like 3 laps. And he was like, dude, you're living the dream out here. This is it. And I was like, man, it's so easy when you're just caught up in the day-to-day routine. I'm sure you know this, and I'm sure most people who are listening, while they're probably working with their headphones in, doing a job that they have a love-hate relationship with. It's like you get so caught up in, sometimes in the operations side or in, little pieces, it can be really hard to stay present around the part that you actually enjoy. And especially with this business, it's like, people are like, oh man, it's so cool. And don't get me wrong, I am immeasurably grateful for every single person yourself that have invested their time and energy in helping me get here. Because there's been, it's like people are like, oh, your business. I'm like, no. I own this thing, and sure, it was my brainchild and I started it, but this is like built on the hopes, dreams, and the kindness of, I say hundreds, but it may be, in the thousands of people at this point. And, it can be really discouraging and frustrating at times when you're, working so hard and you got all this cool stuff going on, and you're still just feel like you're not getting ahead. So the thing I like to do to center in that environment is just like try and look at this thing through the lens of, 15-year-old Dave. And think about, when I was 15 and I was playing Gran Turismo 3, and I took before I even had my license, I stole my mom's 87 Chevy Nova, and I went and like jumped it in a field because I was like, I need to practice being a rally driver. And, the strut ripped out of the strut tower and ripped through the fender, and we had to pay $200 to tow it, 40 miles back to my house, where I tried to fix it and didn't succeed. It's like, I look back at that kid and I try and tell him that I've gotten to spend 15 years driving rally cars. I got to race this Pikes Peak hill climb for 11 years. I've gotten to meet and work with some of my, idols. And, it's really, really an incredible feeling of accomplishment, even though there are times when I'm downstairs and I'm, like changing a hub on a 2000 Honda Civic. And I'm like, wasn't this what I was doing when I was 16? It's like, it can feel like you haven't made progress,
right.
But,
yeah, I'm still changing oil and I've got an engineering degree. How does that work, right?
Yeah, totally. I know. You were changing oil when I met you. So,
yeah.
Here we are doing this exact same thing. And I'm super grateful for all, it's tough. And I think one of the hardest things for me that I had to sort of reconcile in the past year was, I think a lot of us, especially in this industry, have this fear of failure. It's like, am I going to make it? And, am I going to succeed? Is my business going to fail? And it's something that we, I at least can only speak for myself, but like I lived with a lot. And it was like, man, and you were think about what other people are going to think, and if other people are, wanting for you to fail, or, it's like all these toxic thoughts that can creep in if you're not careful. And for me, one of the things that helped a lot was realizing that I already made it. It doesn't matter if, next week we look at the books and we go, man, this doesn't make sense anymore, and we pack it in, and I'm, get an apartment in Austin and go work at Subway. Like the fact that I've been able to do this for 6 years and for 4 years full time, and I've gotten to do the things that I've gotten to do and work with the people we've gotten to work with, I feel really fulfilled and again, super grateful for that. So once I realized that I like, oh yeah, I've made it, I'm good. Like I officially, according to my metrics, I succeeded. I proved my point. I did what I wanted to do. It's all gravy from here. That doesn't mean I'm getting complacent. It's quite the opposite. It's like a really solid edge to move in a new direction. But yeah, I think that was probably the biggest shift for me in the way I sort of think at it.
Awesome.
Think about
Well,
look at it.
what's something you're doing right now that has you fired up?
This is fun. Again, to catch up with my buddy Kevin is always a good win. But more specifically, man, we've got so much cool stuff going on. We just shot 3 episodes of Shifting Gears with Aaron Kaufman for Discovery Channel.
Cool.
Which will be airing in, like 3 weeks now. Probably less by the time this gets wrapped up. I think it's going to be airing late September. Which was super fun. That was a really cool opportunity that, popped up again because of Pikes Peak. Aaron and I, know each other from there, and we've worked on a couple other things together. And he called me a few months ago. Oh gosh, I guess it's February of this year. He said, "Hey, we got this new show, and we're looking at doing a rally car, and I want to come down and bring my guys down and train with you guys, and then maybe you can kind of help us sort of consult a little bit on building this thing." So. I thought it was going to be like a half-hour episode. I didn't know anything about the show. It turned out it was 3-hour-long episodes. So, we just did that. Really amped about that. He and I've got some other stuff that we're kind of working on. I just bought an old World War II airplane hangar that we're moving out here and restoring and building up as our new workshop. I swear,
you do the craziest stuff. I like every time I see you on Facebook, like, hey, I just found a Winnebago somewhere and I'm going to drive all the way around the world with it. It's like weird stuff like that, right?
I wish. Yeah, that sounds great. This hangar just popped up on Craigslist and I was like, what? Oh man, that's sweet. So we're building that as our new workshop here at the ranch. And then I think I'm probably most stoked about the UTV stuff we're doing. So, I used to see these UTVs or side-by-sides in off-road racing, and I was like, man, that looks like the most painful and miserable thing ever. And fast forward about 5 years, and now they're, they're like mini trophy trucks and, kind of like long travel cross carts. It's staggering. So we've got 3 of these Yamaha YXZs out here that are, these things are unreal. It's 18 inches of suspension travel. It's a 3-cylinder dry sump, with a sequential manual gearbox, like a full standalone shaft-driven gearbox, not like some weird chain drive thing. It's a sequential dog box with a clutch pedal, and it'll drive over anything basically. And like they're $20,000, brand new, and you can get them way cheaper. It's insane. And so we've had these out here for 2 years now, and kind of been figuring out what the direction looks like. We took them and pre-ran the Baja 1000 last year. We raced the New Zealand 1000 with them, and put it on the overall podium at the Gorman Rally. So we've kind of figured out how to work these things, and we're officially going to start our UTV rally school here really soon.
Super cool.
Which we're super excited about.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
Yeah.
So let's pause for a quick second, and then I want to talk more about the details of your business. We all know owning a shop is difficult, so we created My Shop Assist to help you manage the various jobs. Whether you run a machine shop, a performance tuning shop, build off-road trucks, or even do powder coating, My Shop Assist can help you. It is completely online and will help you schedule the jobs, log time on each task, track parts orders, and take pictures of the work. You can even export your jobs from My Shop Assist into QuickBooks as invoices. So if you're interested to improve operations at your shop, check out myshopassist.com to start your 30-day free trial. Okay, Dave, so tell us about your school. You just said you bought an airplane hangar. Did you, move that on your property, or is that, property with the airplane hangar? How does that work out?
Yeah, no, we what have I got myself in? Don't make me talk about it. Then I'm going to start to think about it and go, what was I thinking? So I found it on Craigslist. It's a 60 by 90, as best I can tell, like old World War II. No, so it's a full clear span. So the Austin Bergstrom International Airport, that's like the airport in Austin, used to be Bergstrom Air Force Base. And so they shut it down in 93. And when they did, they took all these hangars and buildings and stuff and disassembled them. Some of them got scrapped and a lot of them got salvaged and used all over Austin. And I happened to find one on Craigslist. And the guy who owned it is super, super nice guy who owns a towing company here in town called Bullet Towing. And man, he has been so awesome. He went through all the stuff with me, made sure it's all there. But it's these it's four trusses. They're 14 feet tall in the center and 45 feet long each of the halves. So you bolt it together. It's a 90-foot truss, totally clear span, no columns or no poles or anything in the whole building.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to move these 14-foot wide, once you lay them down, trusses, 45 feet long. And from this, he's got them all over like these 2 different properties in Austin. So we brought those out here, and we're going to put some footings in. And our buddy Bucky Lassick, who either you'd know from skateboarding or
Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Yeah, right. He just, every time he hears that, I think his soul dies a little bit inside. More importantly, probably his 5 years of rallying with Subaru. I invited him in when Aaron called me on the show. I was like, we need Bucky, and so Bucky came and shot the show with us. And mostly he comes out here and pulls giant bass out of the pond at our ranch. But
fishing.
He's gonna come out soon and help us put this thing together. So that'll kind of be the new centerpiece on our place. But our facility is, we're still leasing it from our client who bought it for us. We're in the midst of kind of getting some stuff going with some investors to buy that out from him. But it's 137 acres, and we've got about, I want to say 6.5 or 7 miles of tracks and trails and all kinds of stuff out here now.
Very cool. How many people are working with you?
There's usually a staff of 4 of us here full time, but it's actually me right now, just like the old days. And then on the weekends, I've got, I think at last count, 14 instructors who come in and help out on weekends.
Okay.
Some of them have day jobs.
Similar to like HPD stuff, where you have like people who know how to drive really well come in, and for they get to not have to pay to race, but they instruct, right? Is that similar how you're doing it?
Kind of, yeah. So I mean, my instructors, I pay them on the weekends. They're proper paid employees. They could probably again get paid better elsewhere. But yeah, I pay them to come in and help instruct. And then obviously, as part of that is when class is over, they get to hone their skills and work on their driving. So
okay. And do you have a formal business plan at all?
Yeah, I think it changes about every 45 minutes, but we've been working on it a bunch the past couple of weeks, wrapping up some stuff for this big investment deal we're closing on. So, yeah, I've had a business plan since 2007, and then when it turned into a rally school, it was a new one, and I think we're always looking at it and trying to poke holes in it and figure out where's the market going and how can we adjust.
Yeah, exactly. It's always the trouble, is trying to figure out exactly where you want to go, especially when it's something new like that, right? So, do you find it difficult to manage all your obligations and make sure the property is happening and making sure the next class is coming forward and doing everything? It sounds like you do most of it yourself, and then when you have a class coming up, you bring in a big crew, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I usually keep a bunch of full-time staff here, and for miscellaneous reasons, we've just had so much other stuff happening in the TV show, and we're kind of just going through a big upheaval right now and getting ready to hire a new round of folks here. So, it just depends kind of when you catch us, how many people are here part-time and full-time. And obviously based on that, my stress levels are higher or lower. But yeah, I mean, I think it's always a struggle because, if we're just meeting all of our obligations and our deadlines and everything's smooth sailing, generally that means we're not pushing hard enough or we're not booking enough stuff. So, and I hope that stabilizes here pretty soon. But like I said, we genuinely built this business with three Civics that my co-driver and partner Rob and I bought on Craigslist, and his wife was kind enough to let him, buy some hoopties and build them out a few years ago. And so we took those 3 $500 cars and we've grown it into a fleet of 25-ish cars.
Wow.
Which, depending on when you catch us, sometimes they're really nice. And
right.
And then a handful of UTVs now as well. And so, we're super proud of that, but it's been difficult. I mean, it's $1 in, $1 out on a good day. And so, yeah, I mean, the obligations are really difficult. I'm not I didn't go to college. I went to a rally, and that's where all of my training has come on the job. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm always screwing things up. And
the School of Hard Knocks is a good school to attend.
Totally. I mean, again, as long as it's like you and I first talked about, as long as it's like holding ourselves and each other accountable and politely telling your buddy sometimes, like I've had my staff, a handful of times be like, hey man, that's maybe not the way to handle that. And it's like in those moments, that's, I think what separates you is like, you can choose to get defensive and be, an asshole or justify it and talk about how cool you are. Or you can say, oh man, you know what? whether or not I feel like I screwed up, I really want to know how you think I can improve. And just manage the relationships. You got nothing if you don't have your people, right?
Yeah. So what are your primary sources of revenue?
Our core product is our 1 through 3 day rally school. That's really what we started the business around.
Okay.
So it's $1,100 for a single day, 23 for 2 days, and 35 for 3 days, which is counterintuitive. Most people are like, why does it go up? And it's because the class size gets smaller,
right,
and the speeds get higher, and you do cooler stuff. So that's kind of our core product. That's what we really enjoy the most. If someone wants to get only the best look, I think, anywhere at what rallying is, and we have every sort of terrain on our place here, rally stage wise.
Jumps?
And,
do you have jumps?
Well, shoot, we got jumps. We got big old jumps. We don't really take cars off of them, but God bless UTVs. So,
so you don't do the global rallycross gap jump training, huh?
Oh, jeez. What a nightmare. Thank goodness that series is gone. It's ARX now, and no, we don't have any ARX jump. But the ARX track, as of right now, the only one in North America is at Coda, just down the road. So, send you out of here with all the skills. You can go do it on their track. So that's our core product. We do a half-day rally school, and then we also do like a 2.5-hour-ish kind of rally school. We call them our stage 1 and stage 2 classes.
Okay.
And then our 1, 2, and 3-day university. But then outside of that, we do private training, one-on-one stuff with new drivers or professional drivers or people who just have a busy schedule. And then we also do a lot of corporate events, that's really kind of our bread and butter.
So, question, does actual rallying require a license? Like if you're doing like a SCCA Pro Rally or whatever I'm sure WRC requires a license, but is that something you can get through your school if there is anything required? Since I've never done it, I don't know.
Sure. So, we have 3 sanctioning bodies in the U.S. right now, and they each require a little bit different. But honestly, the kind of crazy thing about rallying is you can pretty much just say that I have money, I'd like to go racing, and you buy your license. So it's a little different from pro racing where you got to, I should say pro, road racing or circuit racing where you have to, build up from, a Spec Miata up to a GT4 car or whatever, but or what are they? I don't even GT. We'll just say GT cars. Or prototypes if you're really cool. The process for rallying is pretty much sign up, pay your money, and hop in a car. There are some novice restrictions in one of the sanctioning bodies that mandate you have to have kind of a lower powered, naturally aspirated car to start with, but that's only in, again, 1 out of the 3 sanctioning bodies. So yeah, you pretty much, if you want to go to the WRC, it's not quite that cut and dry. You have to have an FI license, and it's, you have to do some things to get it, but it's pretty easy to decide that you want to be a rally driver, write a check, and then be sideways through the woods before you realize that you have no idea what you're doing. And
then after you've destroyed your car, then you sign up for Dave's school, right?
Yeah, well, I have an instructor who that's exactly what happened. He crashed the living shit out of his car at his first rally, and he'd been to another rally school before that, and which had been kind of really experiential for him. And so he got in a rally car and still was kind of like, wait, I learned how to like sort of do this stuff, but almost just got in over his head more. And he came back and he was like, man, I totaled my car. I was like, fantastic. You want to work for me? And he's like, wait, what? So I'm only being partially facetious when I say that like he was one of the most qualified people I could hire, because I think, as probably better than most people I know, it's like we've got to figure, it's like you and I had to have a falling out for both of us to learn and grow from that experience individually and as friends. And also it's like, okay, what did I do wrong? And I think the same thing goes for everything. It's like we learn so much more from our mistakes, whether we're talking about this could be as existential as you want it to be, than we do on our successes. And so Brian came back from that rally and was like, oh man, I named him. Sorry, Brian, called you out, dude. He came back from that rally and he was like, man, like he was ready to learn, and he did. He's buckled down and he works tirelessly to improve his driving, but he's got so much to offer folks, because he can talk him through the gamut of like the heartbreak of rally and the difficulty, and and he's still building a new car since then. And yeah, so it's we always tell new folks, like, what's your budget, time, and money? Because a budget is not just money, because you can have all the money in the world, but if you have no time, you're not going racing. And if you have all the time in the world and no money, you're also probably not going racing. So, we always try to say, what's your budget, time, and money? And the first thing we do is sort of try and curate and cultivate a program for someone that fits their individual needs and is really tailored. And then as we kind of get them comfortable behind the wheel, we'll start to figure out, where to apply that, what car to build, and where to send them out into out on their own with their sea legs and just wish them the best. Good luck.
So how in the world do you market this business? I mean, you got Daniel Ricciardo racing out here, and you know Bucky Lasky, you know all these pro rally drivers, but like, where do you get your name out to pick people who aren't pros already?
I don't know. Can you let me know? Figure it out.
Yeah, the Do It For Living podcast. Everybody sign up for Dave's school.
Yes, nailed it. All right, man. Set up a coupon code, and we'll get you the commissions. It's it's interesting. A lot of it is the unfortunate word of mouth, which just doesn't work as well in this specific industry. It's not like when somebody brings you a car, like you can stay slammed with that because somebody brings you a car, you do great work, and somebody else is like, dude, I need to do the same thing, and they drop a car off. We get that for sure. But this is something that it's experiential and it's not in front of people's face constantly. So it's like, it's not something they're going to be thinking about until they need it. It's like, when you're working on cars and modifying cars, people are constantly thinking about that. And it's not as often that people are thinking about rallying. So, we for a long time, we just had like a daily Facebook and Instagram ad budget, and we just, would put up ads, and that did pretty well for us. We do a lot of sort of influencer marketing like that. We work with, friends and athletes in miscellaneous industries. We try and, a lot of our clients who do come out here, we'll talk to them about our corporate events and try and get their boss to pay for them to come back with a whole bunch more people. But that's a big one for us right now. I mean, the TV show that's airing in 3 weeks is going to be a big,
that should help a bunch.
For us.
I bet that will help you a bunch. You're gonna have to get more than one line for your phone, right?
Yeah, God, please no. We had that had been our big push for 2018. Is like, we have a lot of fun out here. I mean, this place is a big giant playground, and there's constantly cool stuff happening, and we really wanted to promote that this year by creating a lot more video content. And when the opportunity came up with Aaron to work with him on the show, I just pretty much put all my eggs in that basket, just because he's a really, really good friend, and he is exactly who everyone hopes he is. He's one of the nicest people that you'll ever deal with.
And he's been successful, which is really awesome. Like, he does exactly what he wants, and he's successful doing it. So I've met him a couple times, but not to the level you have. But every time I talk to him, I get the same impression. He's like down to earth and easy to talk to, and he's a car nut.
He's a car nut, and he's a dude. And so that's been a big one for us. And then as we get through the show here in a few weeks, we've got a whole new marketing campaign that we're kicking out on a handful of different platforms. And again, it's for us, the big thing is like, showing what we do, who we are, and what we're all about. I think is really what sets us apart from everybody else. It's there's a lot of places you can go drive rally cars. There's only one place you can go to get rally ready, right? So,
So how many hours a week are you working? Or are you always working is probably the answer.
Hang on, let's see. 24 times 7. Okay, that's 168. What's 7 times 7? 49. So what's 168 minus 49? It's honestly, all joking aside, I think one of the best things about my situation, I live here at the ranch, and so I wake up and I'm at work, which is really nice sometimes, and is the worst thing in the world when you just want to break. But my commute is about 7 feet, and I mean, it's pretty much like wake up and work, and work until the day is done, and hop off a tractor and get back at it. So
you don't have any kids, or do you have a wife or girlfriend or anything?
Nope. It's just me. No, it's just me and
your dog.
What are we? Five stray dogs.
Yeah, you got lots of dogs. That's right.
every dog that wanders into the ranch ends up staying. So
okay,
we got a stray farm.
So do you think the pay that you do take in justifies your time spent, or is it just a passion?
Wait, you take pay in?
I make money.
That's
not
awesome.
enough, but I take money in.
Yeah, I mean, again, for me, this business, like, I have my expenses are so small because I live on the ranch here, and everything I do is work. So no, I mean, the pay doesn't justify the work spent, but like dollars paid, no, not even close. But the lifestyle and the things that I get to do, 100%. I mean, I would, if I had it all over, to do over again, I would. Sure, I think people who say they don't have regrets are in denial, but there's some regrets and things I would do differently and things I would say differently. But no, I mean, I love what we're doing, and I look forward to the day that I can get paid enough to live somewhere other than my ranch.
Very cool. So what's something that you struggle with in business, and how do you deal with it?
Oh gosh, how long do you have?
Making money.
Yeah. Well, again, yes and no. It's like, the money comes in. I just don't choose to put it in my pocket or my bank account. That's not sustainable, and I can't last forever.
Right.
That way. But I mean, I'm 31 years old.
You're still young.
This is my whole life. I'm, like you said, I'm single, and it's easy to kind of just really stay focused, especially right now. We're experiencing a lot of growth for the business. So, it's easy to justify that. But yeah, I mean, I just struggle with the running a business side of it. It's like, building racetracks, or building dirt roads and trails, and, cutting trees down and driving tractors and putting in post hole. I mean, most of what we do is ranching. And even, wrenching on cars and stuff, and certainly teaching, that stuff is all like, that's second nature for me. And I love it. And I'm happy to do it. It's just then getting in and doing the other stuff that has to be done, and the accounting and payroll and taking care of people and making sure that you got your clients booked, and, all the stuff that's boring that nobody, well, except accountants, I don't think nobody really is like, yeah, I want to do that work for a living. For me, that part that's the stuff that I really need to hire out, and that's what we're working on right now, is getting some folks in here and build a team around all the things that
I was just going to say, it sounds like you just need somebody to manage the place, and then you take care of the track and building out the courses, and let them manage, like, the people, the payroll, the bills, and, doing all that sort of stuff. I feel like what you have is so unique that I feel like it, like it's similar to the Bondurant school, right? Where it's like wildly successful. I mean, they've been around forever. Everybody who's anybody in racing has heard of it or done it. And, I mean, why can't Rally Ready be that for Rally? I mean, that's the direction I think you need, you probably are heading now. So
yeah, totally. And yeah, I mean, spot on. And it's common sense. Like anyone listening, this is like, yeah, duh, that's how this works. And it's not like a revelation for me. That's always been the aspiration. It's been, it's tough to figure out and prioritize and get to a space where we can do that. And so fortunately, in the past, 18 months, there's been a lot of stuff that's been happening. A lot of people who've been really keen to kind of come in and help take on some of that. And so I'm finally accepting the help. And we're going to build, we'll build a team out here of folks that are helping run the rest of this stuff. I'm fortunate enough that my instructors I've trained are not just, I think, the best in the biz, but also they don't need me. Like I'm traveling a lot for other racing stuff, and so they run classes without me, 90% of the time anyway. So I mean, all that I got to do is make sure someone's keeping all the rest of the business running, and I think we'll be in a good position.
All right, cool. Do you have a 1-year plan for the business? Like, where do you want to be by this time next year?
This time next year, we're like I said, we're doing a lot of media stuff. We got some other exciting things that are just starting to come together there. That hopefully will be kind of running by then. And again, I'm really hopeful that we'll have this, have our facility sort of built out. We've been building for 3 years, like putting in new roads and new equipment and working on cars. And so part of the stuff we're working on now is finishing out our fleet, getting the car settled in, getting the workshop built, and hiring the folks to do the operation side, so we can really focus on growth. So, hopefully, we're doing a lot better sales wise. People will have heard of us, in more than one or two places by this time next year, hopefully, and we'll be doing the things that we're really good at and not getting distracted by the the things that are a struggle.
Here's my plan for you, and this is just spitballing. I think you need to get your rally team people or your reps and go to a Yamaha or whoever makes the side by sides and tell them to give you like 50 of them, like Corvette does to the Bondurant school. You need like a fleet of those things donated by the manufacturer, because I guarantee you if somebody rides in one of those at your school, they're going to go buy one.
Well, I'll do one better. So, the model for us is less because we, that was like the first thing we talked about was like, oh, we need to get a bunch of Subarus. And I was like, wait, cars are going away. I don't, like,
yeah, no, the side-by-side is where it's at. I would agree with that. Yeah.
So we started looking at side-by-sides. We got some, we drove them. I'm like, this is it, period. Anyone who, the grumpy old men in rallying and in all these other sports who are like, those things are death traps and blah, blah, blah. Drive one time. You'll be like, oh, crap. That's the same thing I did. I call them golf carts forever, and I thought they were the dumbest thing. You drive it, and you're like, crap, this thing is sweet. So, I love all of them. Can-Am makes a great machine. Textron makes an unbelievable machine, which used to be Arcticat. We've got the Yamahas, Polaris. We've got one of the Turbo Razors here. It's like every one of them has a strength. And I think for us, it's more, we have really good partnerships with some of those manufacturers at sort of like a wholesale level. And I'm actually more interested in pursuing this as a dealership,
Oh, okay. I gotcha. Uh-huh.
We have the opportunity to be like the ultimate arrive and drive center. You come try every one of them out on all this different terrain, and you're like, all right, I want this machine and I want it packaged and spec'd out this way. So, unless somebody who's listening to this is like, great idea, and does it first within my backyard, that's one of our big aspirations. So
No, that's always a fear of saying your ideas and then people want to copy it, but like you really have to be motivated to do it, and it may be a great idea, but if you're not motivated like you to do it, it's not going to happen to the level that you're doing it at.
And even that, what I found is like, there's folks who want to talk about their rally curriculum as an industry secret, and they're racing. It's like, really? Because if you pay $1,000, you get to see all of it. So I don't really think it's that much of a secret. But also, I am like an open book. Like, somebody wants to know exactly what we do and how and why, I'll tell them every bit of it, because it's not replicable, because you're not us. And that's the part. It's like, I'm all about people coming and doing what we do, and I'll help them. Like, if somebody wants to get involved and you're going to grow the sport, let's do it, man. Anyone who's in this to grow the sport, I'm here to support them, and because I've had a lot of people who've done the same for me, and it's like going to Pikes Peak. It's like there could be 6 of us in a class, and are we racing each other? No, we're all there to support each other and race the mountain. And am I super happy to win on race day? Sure. Am I also super happy when my buddy Dave Kern wins instead, or when it's like, yeah, that's what it's all about. And I take the same approach in business. It's like try to remember that all these other businesses are people just like us, and they're also wanting to do the same thing. We have more in common than we do apart. And it's good to remember that there are 3 other rally schools in this country, and if it was up to me, we would all be great close allies and friends who do nothing but support each other and send business to each other. So, I
mean, we kind of touched on it already, but where do you see the 5-year plan for this?
We've got some really exciting stuff that we're working on nationally and internationally for the next few years. And one of the big things that we're really excited about is not just, looking at some other locations that we could be opening schools, but also ways that we can kind of integrate and help get more people involved in not just the sport, but also using rallying as a platform to just do good. I think one of the things that was most exciting for us early on is people would come here with no expectation, really, like it would be given to them as a gift, or they'd show up and they'd be like, what, we're going to drive these crappy old cars? And then they'd get in them and they just like light up like a Christmas tree, and they're like, oh my goodness, like I had no idea. And seeing how empowering that is for people has really kind of got our gears turning. And so, I'd really love to be able to use this as a platform to do more good. And, we have a lot of my friends have driving age kids, and they've started sending them to us to do, the ultimate driver's ed. So like I put a kid who'd never driven before, I put him in my dually and had him drive reverse through a slalom in a dually, and then drive my entire track 2 miles in reverse. It's like, you're going to learn how to drive in reverse. So, I want to take kids like my little brother who, when I met him 9 years ago, he hadn't left Austin and didn't have access to a lot, and like take those kids and bring them out to the ranch and, get their hands dirty and teach them how to, how to drive, teach them how to weld, teach them how to do all this cool stuff. And, anywhere we can, empower people through what we love and what we do here. I'm all about it. So pairing that with some other locations, and like I said, and hopefully really growing the footprint of UTVs and in rallying and in motorsport in general. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I totally see the UTV thing. I mean, absolutely exploding, because cars are getting harder and harder to, modify, and they're getting more expensive, and, and
bigger, heavier.
Yeah. And then you got the EPA's cracking down on all that stuff too. And I don't think the UTV things, you can take them totally stock and go beat the bejesus out of them. So.
Oh, I mean, it's unreal. It's totally unreal what we're capable of doing with them and what they'll survive. And like, yeah, stock, I wouldn't encourage you to go drive it flat out 80 miles an hour down my fence line with the stock like tracker bass boat seats and the roll cage that's made out of PVC wrapped in aluminum foil. But the aftermarket is huge for them. They're crazy reliable. They're super fast. They're only getting more and more crazy. And also, my belief is that the automotive industry is going to start to is going to increasingly lean autonomous and electric. And as that happens, I mean, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. It's already so difficult to modify cars, and they're trying to basically eliminate vehicle ownership almost. So the future, as of right now, it's all off-road stuff, but I think, it's gonna spill into track days and, more tailored stuff as well moving forward. So
I'm with you on that one. So
definitely you guys need to, you and Todd need to come down here and take these things for a rip, because it's like change your whole.
Next time in Austin, I will definitely give you a shout. So
awesome.
What are you daily driving?
I got me a fancy 2017 F250, and before that, I had about 8 other dualies, and that's all I ever daily.
All right.
It's like everyone in racing, right? I have a 5-speed SE300, and I'm working on getting my Miata back on the road at some point, periodically. But Yep, it's always just driving the work truck.
Okay. And how do we connect with you and your company?
You can find us on Instagram at Rally Ready, Facebook Rally Ready Driving School. Give me a call if you want. I'm always down to talk rallying. Shoot me an email, dave@rallyready.com. We're always excited to talk about rallying, and for us, it's like somebody wants to call and say, hey, I want to go to this other rally school, but you have questions about the sport. Great. We're just excited to get people involved in rallying, and even if somebody doesn't have any aspirations of going rallying specifically, the car control that we teach is really applicable to anything, that you want to do in a car. So, if anybody's keen to know more about rally cars, learn more about what we got going on down here, or if anyone's ever in Austin, just give us a holler. Like I said, we're 15 minutes from Coda, and I'm always happy to crush a sparkling water on the porch with you here at the ranch and show you around.
Awesome, Dave. I really appreciate you taking the time to share your story with us, and it's been good catching up with you again.
Yeah, man. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Do It for a Living. You can find out more about this guest, this show, and even details about what we just talked about at our website. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/doitforaliving and tell us who you want to hear from. And most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Click subscribe. Do it now. Seriously. I'll wait while you grab your phone. Open up the podcast app. Tap the subscribe button. When you subscribe, you help us gain momentum and attract more high-level guests. Thanks for listening.